Father-in-law Kaido's monster cells create the strongest beasts. 201. Luo Xing, who loves the country more than beauty, and Momousagi, who is pretty blushing. Dolphin is anxious and wants to stop Luo crossing. But he was besieged by the wicked king and the big wine barrel, and he was too busy to take care of himself, so how could he have any spare energy? He could only glance anxiously in Momousagi's direction out of the corner of his eye, praying that Momousagi would respond as soon as possible. Momousagi responded quickly. As an admiral candidate, she is one of the few strong women in this sea. Her observation haki has sensed Luo Xing's breath approaching. The reason why she recognized Luo Xing's breath at once was that Momousagi was deeply impressed by the opponent's haki who looked down on the world in the battle of Impel Down Luo Xing vs Bullet. This impression is indelible. Momousagi may remember it for a lifetime. Not to mention these for the time being, only to say that Momousagi sensed Luo Xing's approach and panicked in his heart. What did that man come to her for? Are you going to help Catherine Demi kill her, or capture her? But no matter what the result is, 293 is not a good end for Momousagi. Momousagi acted decisively and decided to retreat. Just one Catherine Demi is on par with her, plus the unfathomable 5 Emperor Luo Xing. She will definitely lose. Momousagi took a deep breath, and then let out a coquettish cry. What? The famous sword Jinpira in his right hand suddenly cut out a huge pink sword wave. Catherine Demi couldn't dodge in time, and the 9 foxtails behind her were cut off a few times, but they recovered in a blink of an eye. Momousagi pushed the enemy back with a single sword, and then without stopping for a while, his small waist twisted in the air, turned round, and quickly swept away in the direction of the main warship. There the main warship, Commander Kong and Marshal Sengoku were both there, and with their 2 elders there, even the 5th Emperor Luo Xing had to be wary. Momousagi is not unwise, and at this critical juncture, her choice is the most sensible. Pity. She underestimated Luo Xing's speed. Perhaps, she underestimated Luo Xing's love for gorgeous flowers. Why run so fast? I won't hurt you. Luo Xing's figure flickered, and he stood in front of Momousagi. Momousagi's beautiful eyes shrank slightly, shocked by Luo Xing's speed. She suppressed the vibration in her heart with all her strength, barely kept her calm, and squeezed out an unnatural but still beautiful smile. I'm your enemy. The 5 emperors have always been ruthless towards the enemy. Why should you tell lies that won't hurt others? Luo Xing smiled lightly and said, I do show little mercy towards the enemy, but you are different. Oh? Momousagi's eyes flashed, looking for an opportunity to escape, while saying, how is it different? Luo Xing said solemnly, because you are a fascinating woman. 35. 9. This answer greatly exceeded Momousagi's expectations, and Momousagi's eyes widened in surprise. Momousagi is well aware of her beauty. Her suitors in marine and world government can form an army. The dolphin, who is also a candidate for admiral, has confessed to her countless times and still doesn't give up. Anyone who says Momousagi is beautiful and mesmerizing, Momousagi will not be surprised. But when these words came out of the mouth of the man in front of her, she had to be extremely surprised, because Momousagi had clearly felt Luo Xing's monstrous haki that looked down on the world and was unparalleled in the world. And the other side is a scientist greater than Vegapunk, a wise wizard who can play Marshal Sengoku, Commander Kong, and the 5 elders. It stands to reason, such a strong-willed, wise man should not be fooled by women. Is this man joking and deliberately teasing her? But Momousagi didn't look like he was joking when he saw the man's serious expression. Momousagi's beautiful eyes couldn't help but become weird, and he subconsciously said, a little bit different from what I imagined before. 39. Luo Xing smiled and said, do you think I'm the kind of man who doesn't care about beauty and only has ambition? No, in fact, I love beauty more than ambition. Momousagi heard the words, and the beautiful eyes became more and more strange. Do you love the country more than the beauty? It was the first time she had seen such a man. Tao Minutes sighed quietly. It seems that you are no different from those prodigal sons. It's a pity that people thought you were a strange man from the heavens and the latitudes. Luo Xing said that of course he is a strange man. Only a strange man like him can control the many beauties on the sea. Luo Xing approached Momousagi and said honestly, I'm just a layman, an ordinary scientist, a collector who sees beautiful flowers or lovely birds and wants to keep them in his house. I have raised a marine's lark before, and I need you to accompany her. Momousagi was a little flustered, although this man spoke calmly. The domineering connotation in it could not be concealed. Ordinary women can't resist the domineering of this man at all. Even her Momousagi had the urge to fall into a man's arms in an instant. Momousagi bit the tip of his tongue to keep himself awake, while a trace of doubt flashed in his eyes. The other party said that he has raised a marine's lark. Which poor girl has been poisoned? But she didn't have time to think so much. The man was already less than a meter away from her. Momousagi holds the famous sword Jinpira tightly in her right hand. She thinks of a sword, but observation haki and her past combat experience told her that there was no point in using a sword, and it was impossible to knock down the man in front of her. After all, This man is a terrifying existence that can cut through a huge strait that stretches for dozens of miles. What should I do? Perspiration dripped from Momousagi's pale forehead. Suddenly, she had a flash of inspiration and had an idea. Since the 5 emperors Luo Xing coveted her beauty, she could just choose this to display her unique charm skills. The more Momousagi thought about it, the more she felt that this method was the only way she could get out of trouble. Momousagi, who made up her mind, immediately showed a sweet smile on her delicate and pretty face. Her red lips spit out, and her voice was sweet. Since the dignified 5 sovereigns have taken a fancy to others, it's too late for them to be flattered. How can they not do it? That crisp, numb voice made people's bones lighten a bit. Luo Xing's throat rolled. Momousagi saw this keenly, and she knew that the opportunity to use her charm skills had come. Her red lips parted slightly, and suddenly a cloud of pink mist spit out, covering Luo Xing's entire body. Success. Momousagi was pleasantly surprised, didn't expect it to be so easy. Her pink mist is not simple, and those who are hit will fall into illusion. 5.4 In the fantasy world, there is a woman that a man desires most in his heart, and a woman will obey him in every way. Momousagi believes that with the level of Wu Huang Luo Xing's love for beautiful women, there must be a lot of women in the fantasy world, and they will be addicted to it for at least a while. Taking advantage of this time, Momousagi can retire calmly. However, she just took a step and was about to leave Luo Xing's side. A large hand suddenly stretched out from the pink mist and wrapped around her slender waist. Unexpectedly, Momousagi exclaimed, and her body was pulled into the pink mist uncontrollably. She poured into a man's broad chest, and the strong masculine breath came out, making Momousagi, who was so close to a man for the first time, blushed. Luo Xing's playful voice sounded beside her crystal clear earlobe. 202. Capture Momousagi. The jealous Dolphin. Sad Kong. Luo Xing did see a lot of beauties in the illusion created by the pink mist. Most of them are already Luo Xing's women, such as wife Yamato, Xiaozi, Viola, Rebecca, Tashigi, Ain, Perona, Nami. It must also belong to Luo Xing, but Luo Xing has not owned them yet, such as Nico Robin, Princess Vivi, Nami's sister Nuoka Gao, Vinsmoke Middle. And the world's first beauty queen Boa Middle. Hancock. In addition, there are 2 women Luo Xing misses. One is Momousagi, and the other is Shirahoshi, the mermaid princess. In the fantasy world, these women talked and laughed and got along very well. Luo Xing hugged from left to right. It was a real emperor-like enjoyment. Although he felt very comfortable and felt that this is the ideal kingdom of heaven, Luo Xing's will has always remained clear. Illusion is an illusion. What is the meaning of nothingness? Luo Xing wants to have these beauties. He doesn't need to dream. He wants to get it with his own wrist. Therefore, Luo Xing was only slightly addicted to the illusion, and then broke free. He stretched out his hand and took Momousagi, who wanted to escape, into his arms. Feeling the delicate skin of the other party and the good smell of the body, Luo Xing couldn't help but sigh. Only in this way, holding a beautiful woman is the most comfortable. Luo Xing pressed a certain special acupoint on Momousagi's weak and boneless waist, and Momousagi immediately softened and lost the strength to resist. Luo Xing said in a gentle voice, "Such a method may not be glorious, but you are indeed fascinating, and I will treat you well in the future." Saying that, he carried Momousagi in his arms and returned to the terror bark. Momousagi, lying helplessly in Luo Xing's arms, blushed. The strong masculine aura surrounding her nose and mouth made her, who was experiencing this battle for the first time, breathe quickly, and her face flushed as if she was drunk. The man's domineering voice near her earlobe, which was almost a confession, made her heart beat even more. While flustered, it seems to be more complacent and sweet. Proud of his own beauty, he is fascinated by big men and strange men like Yuang Liu are crossing. Sweetness is something Momousagi herself is unwilling to admit. In fact, as early as Impel Down saw Luo Xing's majestic figure looking down on the world, she was a little in love. The jealousy of the T-Pig at that time was not without reason. And if the jealousy of the T-Dolphin at that time was just a stream, then at this moment, seeing Luo Xing holding his dream goddess in his arms, his jealousy is as surging as Wang Yang. The T-Dolphin's complexion turned purple. His anger was soaring, and his jealousy was like an unstoppable volcanic eruption. He shouted in Luo Xing's direction, "Let go Momousagi, you bastard!" Then, he did not know where the strength came from, and he suddenly forced back the evil ruler and the big wine barrel who besieged him. The T-Dolphin charged towards Luo Xing without saying a word, like a wild beast. Momousagi was awakened by the roar of the T-Dolphin. She quickly raised her head from Luo Xing's arms, looked at the T-Dolphin, and said anxiously, "No, no, you are not this man's opponent." Momousagi doesn't like T-Dolphin at all, but after all, he is a companion who has worked with him for many years. She still did not want to see the T-Dolphin in danger. But the red-eyed T-Dolphin, who was already jealous, didn't hear it at all. Luo Xing's footsteps stopped, and he glanced at the past lightly. "I hate the flowers I grow, and being targeted by other men is a death penalty even if I think about it." Momousagi's body trembled slightly, with a hint of pleading in his tone. "Don't, Don't kill the T-dolphin, okay? Everyone can't resist you anymore. Luo Xing looked at the beauty in his arms, stretched out a finger to lift the other's pointed chin, and said, "It's a matter between men, and it's best for women not to interfere." Momousagi's beautiful eyes suddenly filled with mist, and her heart beat faster and more panicked. She pressed her red lips tightly. Luo Xing raised the fingers of Momousagi's chin, and took advantage of the trend to pull out the black sword Yanmo, who had been promoted to the supreme sword, from his waist. The vast haki, soaring into the sky. A black airflow spreads all around. Momousagi, who was lying in Luo Xing's arms, was the one who could feel the horror of this momentum the most. She was heartbroken. On the one hand, I am worried about the safety of my colleague, T-dolphin, for many years. On the other hand, Zhuyu thought that she might not be able to escape this man's clutches again. The terrifying aura made the T-dolphin, who was lost by jealousy, finally wake up. A terrified expression appeared on the T-dolphin's face. Although he is an admiral alternate, he is still a long way from the real admiral and Yuang Luo Xing, but one of the world's top powerhouses who can kill bullet. If he rushed up rashly, he might end up dead without a place to be buried. T-dolphin's heart could not help but give birth to the meaning of shrinking and retreating. But looking at that hateful man still hugging Momousagi, the goddess of his dreams, and Momousagi seems to be dazzled by the man's domineering bearing, T-dolphin's monstrous jealousy erupted again. Damn, never let Momousagi be taken away by him. Desperate for everything, T-dolphin unreservedly displayed all his strength and continued to charge towards Luo Crossing. Luo Xing looked indifferent, holding the beauty Momousagi in one hand and the black sword Yanmo in the other, slashing from top to bottom. Purgatory, Hades, Buzz. A huge black sword wave with a height of hundreds of meters cut through a deep ravine on the sea surface, traversing the space at an incredible speed, and came to the front of the T-dolphin in an instant. T-dolphin was horrified. He didn't expect that the man would use such a killer move when he came up. Didn't he plan to test it a few times first? The T-dolphin was sweating coldly. He drank violently, roared furiously, hurriedly mobilized with haki, trying to block the black sword wave. But all in vain. All of his defenses, in front of Luo Xing's sword skills that entangled conquerors, were like paper paste, easily torn apart, meaningless. Kai. Next moment, the black sword wave swiped across the center of the T-dolphin's body, splitting it in half. The blood spurted wildly, dyeing the surface of the sea red. Even a god could not save this person. Momousagi was stunned, and closed his eyes, unable to bear to see the tragic state of the T-dolphin. Luo Xing put the knife into the sheath, as if he had done a trivial thing. It took only a few minutes for Luo Xing to subdue Momousagi, hold him in his arms, and then kill the T-pig with his sword. Kong and Sengoku, who were fighting, didn't have time to react at all. By the time they were ready to rescue, Momousagi had already been caught, and 293 T-dolphins had died. Kong, the commander-in-chief of the sea, land and air, immediately turned red, and cried out in grief, "Momousagi!" T-dolphin and Momousagi have always been with Kong, and are equivalent to Kong's disciples. Now that one was killed and the other was caught, how could Kong not be in grief? "The old man is going to kill you, bastard." The old man was completely furious and wanted to kill Luo Crossing. But just as he stepped on his feet, a stout thunderstorm fell from the sky, electrifying him. Enel sneered, "Old guy, you still want to disturb the young master? Are you just a decoration?" Kong took a lot of effort to use haki to resist the current in his body. His face became ugly. After all, he is old and frail, and his strength is no better than when he was young. It was a bit difficult to face Enel, the thunder fruit capable of extremely fast speed and strong attack. There is no time to go to Luo Xing again. Hateful. Kong had no choice but to suppress the grief of the death of the T-dolphin, and went to observe the rest of the battlefield. Sengoku, Kizaru, Aokiji, and CPO are all entangled in their respective opponents and cannot escape. On the side of the 100 Beasts, the huge battleship Samuan Evil Wolf was destroying Marine's warship. The size of the Evil Wolf is too large, and it can easily trigger tsunami-level waves, easily overturning more than a dozen warships. The Crescent Hunter Katrin Demai, the King of Evil, and the Big Wine Barrel also joined the operation to destroy the warship. If this goes on, Marine's dozens of warships will be destroyed in a short time. 203. Zoro's 9 Swords, Ashura. Sword drawing, dead man's play. Momousagi is crazy. Not only the warship was sunk, but also the war between 50,000 sailors and criminals and zombies is not optimistic. Although the number of marines is dominant, the enemies are all like monsters. They are fierce, and they are not afraid of death. One person can be worth 10 sailors. Konga made a rough calculation, and the casualties of the marines have now exceeded 10,000. The tragic level is rare in the world, and it can be called a bloody meat grinder. As Kong responded to Enel's thunderous attack, he yelled at Sengoku not far away, "Sengoku, this is not the way to go. Do you have any good ideas?" 39. Sengoku is entangled with the seaman Jinbai. His strength, strictly speaking, is still above Jinbai, who ate dragon-level monster cells. After all, his zone, Rinrin fruit, mythical beast, and great Buddha form, integrates attack and defense, and has amazing vitality and resilience. However, this is the sea, the home of the Murlocs, where demon fruit power will be greatly restricted. Jinbei dived directly to the bottom of the sea, throwing powerful currents to attack Sengoku from time to time. Sengoku can only passively resist, or counterattack Jinbei with shock waves. But Jinbei continued to dive into the depths of the seabed, and no matter how strong the shockwave of Sengoku was, it could not affect the deep seabed. Sengoku was a little furious, and he couldn't catch Jinbei at all. Certainly, Sengoku can also ignore Jinbei and help others defeat their opponents. But in this way, Jinbei can attack marine warships with impunity. Jinbei, who can control ocean currents, destroys warships faster than Sammo and Bad Wolf. Regardless of Jinbei's words, all warships will be sunk in just a moment and a half. By then, their marines had no place to stand. Sengoku was extremely helpless and could only entangle with Jinbei like this. At this time, when he heard Kong's anxious voice, he became more and more depressed and anxious. If he had a good idea, he would have said it long ago. Why would he have to wait for Kong to ask? Sengoku sullenly Kaido, Commander-in-Chief Kong, the best solution right now is to call the 5 elders and ask the world government to send more troops to support us. Kong's expression was embarrassed. How can the world government still have extra troops? It is not that there are only 50,000 soldiers left in the world government, but in order to maintain the rule of celestial dragons, most of the government's troops are stationed in various parts of the sea. It will take a lot of time to gather these troops, and it will definitely not work for a while. Kong immediately thought, this should be hidden combat power or weapons on the Holy Land Marie-Joyce, which is the secret of the Celestial Dragon's master. But the 5 elders are definitely not willing to reveal these secrets, otherwise they will tell Kong when they come. Horror bark. Luo Xing came with Tomo. Perona, who was floating in the air, saw it, and her small mouth bulged. Sure enough, as she had guessed before, the bad guy just took a fancy to another beautiful woman. Perona is a bit of a snack vinegar. Angry, she released a dozen negative ghosts at once, passing through the CPO members. Each of these CPO members has Marine Elite Vice Admiral level strength, and has been in contact with Moria. But as soon as they were dressed like this by the negative ghost, they immediately knelt down and said sadly, "Damn us, we're just celestial dragons pugs who don't deserve to live in this world." Ha 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 ha. Perona laughed happily, feeling at last relieved. Moria seized the opportunity and beheaded all these CPO members. The boss of CP0, who was dueling with Zoro, saw it. His eyes were split, and his face was blue. Zoro grinned. When fighting beasts, don't be distracted, or you won't know how to die. 99. Ghost Chi, 9 sword style, Ashura, sword drawing, dead man's play. Boom. A violent ghost burst out from Zoro. That terrifying aura made the boss of CP0 stand upright, and said in awe, "This green algae head actually has such sword skills." The 3-headed and 6-charmed posture is like a demon coming out of hell. 35. And the black hair on him, is it ghosts? No, not just ghosts, but Conqueror's Haki. Does this guy want to become king too? 35. The terrifying aura of Zoro's eruption shocked Admiral Aokiji, who was also on the 3-masted ship and fought against the demon Oz. Luo Xing's eyes naturally looked over. Zoro is half of his disciple after all, and he attaches great importance to Zoro. Seeing Zoro urge Conqueror's Haki and Ghost Chi, with 3 heads and 6 arms, Luo Xing couldn't help but flash a hint of relief in his eyes. This trick, it was used on Kaido when Zoro was seriously injured in the original book, and it was Zoro's strongest blow 2 years later, enough to injure Kaido. Now, Zoro is the advance master. Luo Xing watched carefully, wanting to see how powerful Zoro's blow was. It was Momousagi in Luo Xing's arms, who felt the powerful sword intent and looked over subconsciously. I happened to see Zoro's 9-knife flow, passing by the boss of CP0. Puff. The boss of the CPO cried out in pain. A huge sword mark appeared on his chest, and blood splattered everywhere. Momousagi's beautiful eyes were amazed. She still has some understanding of the boss of CP0. This person is a top-level powerhouse stronger than her. To be seriously injured by a lesser-known swordsman is truly incredible. Feeling weird. A man's voice came suddenly. Momousagi's heart jumped, her hands resting on the strong muscles of the man's abdomen. She wanted to push him away, but she had no strength at all, so she could only lie down in his arms. Luo Xing hugged Momousagi's slender waist tightly, making the two stick closer, and continued in a gentle voice. Actually, don't be surprised, this 3-sword-style swordsman who has not been famous for the time being will become the strongest swordsman in the world in the future. 35. Momousagi's delicate body trembled lightly. The strongest swordsman in the world, this man's subordinates are really hidden dragons and crouching tigers. The boss of the CPO was seriously injured by Zoro, and it was a matter of time before he lost. The advantages of the entire battlefield are also constantly tilting towards the 100 beasts. Luo Xing did not intend to wait any longer, and was ready to end the war as soon as possible. He took out any door, opened it, and walked in with Momousagi in his arms. "I'll take you to meet that little marine now." Opposite any door is Punk Hazard. In just an instant, it was like a dream to reach the quiet and beautiful Punk Hazard from the terrifying bark of war. Momousagi couldn't help but stretched out her right hand and gently stroked any door, her beautiful eyes showing admiration. It was amazing, like a prop from a fairy tale. "If you like it, I'll give you one later." Momousagi's red lips pursed. "Aren't you afraid I use this to escape?" Luo Xing said indifferently. "Don't be afraid, because at that time, the whole world was under my control, and you belong to me forever." The plain tone has a supremely majestic bearing, just like the gods above the 9 heavens. 204. The embarrassed and stubborn Tashigi, Jhin and Fuzifu joined the battlefield. Momousagi, who realized her gaffe, blushed slightly, and hurriedly lowered her head. Luo Xing took Momousagi to a spacious courtyard in Punk Hazard Yard. 2 beautiful figures of young girls are practicing swordsmanship against each other. A pair of tight denim shorts, green hair, and snow-white skin. A man with glasses and big eyes always swings his sword very hard, as if there is an enemy that must be defeated. Clang clang. The 2 women soon fought dozens of rounds. They each gasped slightly, sweat overflowing from their white foreheads. Zephyr's disciple, the green-haired girl Ayin said, "Tashigi, your swordsmanship is getting better and better. I can't beat you." 35. Even though it was a compliment, Tashigi's face puffed up and looked a little unhappy, because she knew that the reason why her swordsmanship progressed so fast was not because of her hard practice, but because of the bad guy's teaching. That bad guy, that night, grabbed her hands, pressed her waist and hips, and taught her how to use the sword in every move. As a result, Tashigi's comprehension of swordsmanship has been improved to a higher level. Cultivation is also a multiplier. This was originally a good thing, but bad guys are bad guys, and pirates are pirates. 310. The man quickly showed his true colors. He actually did that, even with Sister Ayin. That night, Tashigi was going crazy and the tears couldn't stop flowing. But that bad guy still wants to bully her. In the days that followed, Tashigi couldn't help gnashing his teeth whenever he thought about that night. She desperately practiced swordsmanship and desperately improved herself. She wants to defeat that man, let that hateful man apologize to her, repent to her. But, thinking of the swordsmanship she practiced, there are shadows of the man taught everywhere. Tashigi was angry and depressed again. This contradictory mentality is why Tashigi puffed up when he heard Ain's praise. Having been with each other for so long, Ayin could probably guess what Tashigi was thinking. She couldn't help it. After all, Ayin had previously used the ability to regress the fruit on Luo Xing for Tashigi, but it was ineffective. That man's powerful haki is already immune to her powers. After Tashigi became sullen, he said firmly, "I will definitely defeat that big villain." Just as she, Bife, finished speaking, Luo Xing walked to the gate of the courtyard with Momousagi in his arms. Just heard this. Momousagi's beautiful eyes flashed a strange color, and looked up at Luo Xing. What did he do to Tashigi to make Sister Tashigi, who is always cute, so resentful? Momousagi recognized Tashigi and Ain at a glance. The rare beauties inside Marine, they had met several times in Marineford before. Luo Xing coughed, but there was no embarrassment on his face. Being complained by a woman behind her back is always inevitable. Men should be more generous. Tashigi heard Luo Xing's cough and turned to look. As soon as she saw Luo Xing's figure, her delicate body shuddered, and she remembered what happened that night. Tashigi's pretty face immediately flushed with embarrassment, and he charged towards Luo Xing with his sword in hand. "You wicked man, I will teach you a lesson." Luo Xing smiled slightly, grabbed Momousagi with his left hand, stretched out his right hand, and easily knocked out the sword in Tashigi's hand, then wrapped his arms around his slender waist and took Tashigi into his arms. Hug left and right. "The fragrance of the girl is fragrant," Luo Xing said in a gentle voice. "Little Tashigi, too violent is not a lady." 35. Momousagi, the important task of teaching Tashigi in the future is up to you. After that, Luo Xing left Shishiren. Now that the war is still going on fiercely, he doesn't have much time to stay in Wenru Township. Tashigi looked at Luo Xing's back angrily. It wasn't until Luo Xing disappeared that she picked up her knife and asked Momousagi, "Sister Momousagi, have you been caught by this villain too?" Tauminitz sighed and nodded. Tashigi gritted his teeth angrily. The wicked, is indeed a great wicked. Sooner or later, I will defeat him." Ayin stepped forward and said, "With the strength of Momousagi's sister Admiral's candidate, you can't resist in front of that man. Tashigi, you should give up this goal." Momousagi also sighed. "That man is too strong, and he has no flaws in every aspect. He is a strange man that has never been seen since ancient times." Tashigi stared at Ain and Momousagi in amazement, stomping his feet and saying, How can you say such discouraged words?" HMPH, people don't believe in evil." Tashigi was puffed up and continued to practice with sweat dripping down. "Little Lord." Guarding the Punk Hazard is the Firebane, the first of the 3 plagues. Jhin respectfully saluted Luo Xing. Luo Xing didn't talk too much nonsense and said directly, "The Marine and the world government, in order to retake the Saipadi archipelago, have dispatched almost the entire force of the Marie Joys, and this is a good time to weaken them! 99. Jhin, it's time for you to appear. Jhin was overjoyed and geared up, very excited. An orphan of the Lunaria clan. He once lived on the Red Line, but was driven down by the Celestial Dragons. When he was young, he was also used as research material by the world government. Jin's hatred of the world government is not an exaggeration to say that he hates it to the core. Now he finally has the chance to take revenge on the world government. How could he not be excited? Luo Xing opens any door again. However, he did not return to the Dread Bark, but came to dress Rosa and call Fuzifu, who was flying 6. Fuzifu also has a deep hatred for the world government. After receiving Luo Xing's order, he couldn't help but burst out with bloodthirsty taste. After summoning Firebane and Fuzifu, Luo Xing returned to the battlefield. And the reason why he specifically called these two is because they both have their superiority and can quickly destroy marine. As predicted, Jhin directly transformed into a huge pterosaur that covered the sky, with special flames burning on its wings. Fuzifu turned into a scarlet saber-toothed tiger, flapping his wings and making a deafening roar in the air. One dragon and one tiger came to the battlefield, and Marine was horrified. Both Kong and Sengoku changed their faces. No, it turned out to be the two of them. Hit them both down. The terrified sailors hurriedly fired cannonballs into the sky. But the power of the cannonball was like a tickling for Jhin and Fuzifu, who both ate monster cells. The black pterosaur that Ember turned into, said in an endlessly chilling voice. The lackeys of the world government, feel the hell of flames. Guarding the fire dragon Emperor, boom, a huge fire dragon shot out, roaring and burning down more than 10 warships. Fuzifu is laughing wildly. Death, all of you will die for Lao Tzu. The ferocious saber-toothed tiger descended from the sky, easily grabbed several warships and flew them into the sky, and then shattered them. After Jhin and Fuzifu, a dragon and a tiger, joined the fray. 205. The self-cultivation of the ape, the dedicated Kizaru. Marine retreats. Jhin and Fuzifu were the last two straws that broke Marine. Under the fierce attack of lightning pterodactyl and flying saber-toothed tiger, Marine's warships were dwindling at a rate visible to the naked eye, and in the blink of an eye there were only a dozen or so left. Sengoku couldn't care less about entanglement with Jinbei, and hurried to Kong's side, panicking. That abominable 5 Emperor Luo Xing, invented any door, can travel through space at will, and constantly increase reinforcements. Now he has called Fire Calamity and Fuzifu. These two guys can fly and attack in the air. We can't resist. If this goes on, we'll be wiped out soon. Kong, who has experienced many battles, can't see this. His face was ugly, and he looked at the huge pterosaurs and scarlet tigers that dazzled and swaggered in the sky, and his teeth were about to be shattered. He can fly to the sky with moonwalk, but he's certainly not as agile as the winged Jhin and Fuzifu. And the CP0 who is best at moonwalk, its boss was seriously injured by Zoro's 9 blades, and the rest of the members were Moriaxiazu. At the moment, Marine has no means to deal with Jhin and Fuzifu other than firing cannonballs. But the power of the cannonball was too small to injure the two of them at all. If I had known, I should have brought all the pacifists too. Kong regrets it. Pacifists can fire lasers, which should threaten Jhin and Fuzifu, I guess. Sengoku listened, but smiled bitterly. Of course they can bring the pacifist legion, but there are even stronger Cybertronians on the side of the 5 Emperor Luo crossing. Pacifists can't work. The pacifist laser attack itself is a knockoff of Kizaru. And Kizaru is here. Wouldn't it be better to let Kizaru fire a laser to deal with Jin's pterosaurs and Fuzzy Fury? Sengoku and Kong looked in the direction of Kizaru at the same time. At this time, Kizaru is holding the Amazuma Cloud Sword, and he competes with Ashura of the Rain in swordsmanship. Clank clang. The sound of gold and iron slamming, golden light overflowing, and a pair of indistinguishable appearances. Kizaru seemed to sense that Sengoku and Kong were looking at him. He helped the old man's waist, and his panting speed became faster. Ashura, who was fighting against him, noticed this and grinned. Why, this is exhausting. Kizaru, it looks like you're getting old too. 5. Kizaru said out of breath. The old man is almost 60 years old, and of course he can't compare to you young people. Ashura sneered more and more. I will not understand your old age and frailty, and I will kill you later, but don't complain about unfairness. Talking, Ashura's offensive was even more severe. Kizaru resisted with all his might, and out of the corner of his eye he was watching Sengoku and Kong. Seeing the two withdrew their gazes at him, Kizaru smiled smugly in his heart. I can't help my waist, and I can't breathe. Continued to compete leisurely with Ashura in the old-fashioned swordsmanship. Turn out to be, everything just now was deliberately performed by Kizaru for Sengoku and Kong. When he found out that Jhin and Fuzifu dominated the sky, Kizaru guessed that he might be assigned the task of dealing with the two. Because of Marine, currently only he has the ability to attack in a large range, but Kizaru, who upholds an ambiguous justice and resolutely implements the punctual commute to get off work, is unwilling to accept such a thankless task. It's not the first time Kizaru has dealt with Jhin. As early as the Punk Hazard battle, he and Jin Xioxi outplayed against each other once. He knew that Jin's strength was extremely formidable, and his defense was astonishing, and he seemed to be an undead body. At that time, his 8-foot giant Omo hit him, and basically did not cause any effective damage. And this time it's not just Jhin, but Fuzifu who looks so scary. He is not interested in fighting these two people. Why do you work so hard and don't raise your salary? As for the defeat of Marine and the world government, Kizaru didn't care either. If you lose, you will lose, and you don't need him to take the blame anyway. Kizaru just does his own thing. For other things, I'm sorry, the old man's waist is not good. You should find someone else. On the main ship, Kong and Sengoku silently retracted their gazes, looked at each other, and both saw the helplessness in each other's eyes. That Pelusilino guy can act and fish, and he has no sense of responsibility or justice as a marine admiral. The two had known Kizaru for decades, and of course they could see that Kizaru was acting just now. But what does it look like? They can't expose Kizaru, and they can't force Kizaru. Kizaru is an admiral, with full autonomy. Also, if you really force Kizaru, if Kizaru slaps his butt and joins the camp of the 100 beasts, then it will be a big joke. Not to mention, with Kizaru's urination, if you think it's uncomfortable to stay in marine, it's really possible to join the beasts. Ambiguous justice, suddenly seeing celestial dragons as evil, and beasts pirates as the savior of the world, is also quite reasonable. Can't find the slightest fault. Concerned about this, neither Kong nor Sengoku dared to really force Kizaru. And if Kizaru didn't make a move, the 5 elders wouldn't be able to send reinforcements. Left to marine, there was only one choice, that is retreat. But when the 5 elders gave death orders, they must retake the Saibadi archipelago. If you retreat, you don't know what kind of wrath you will endure from the 5 elders when you go back. Kong and Sengoku's faces became cloudy. ... Zero. Difficult to choose. Suddenly a scream came into their ears. It was another warship that was destroyed by the fire dragon of the flames. Sengoku's eyes suddenly turned red. He couldn't bear to watch his soldiers die here in vain. Sengoku said flatly, "You must retreat. Any punishment from the 5 elders will be borne by the old man alone." Kong sighed deeply, patted Sengoku on the shoulder and said, "Let's retreat. That's the only way. The old man will bear the consequences with you." Now that the two leaders have made a decision, Marine's clarion call for retreat immediately sounded. The remaining sailors who have not been killed have long been terrified and fled to the remaining warships in a panic. Suddenly, a golden light flashed, and a figure fell on the retreating warship first. It was Admiral Kizaru. Kizaru stretched, looked at the sky, and said to himself, "It's so late. The time to get off work has long passed." Far away, Ashura of the Rain was a little confused. It's not that Kizaru is exhausted. Why did he suddenly slip so fast that he didn't react at all? Damn it, Kizaru, why are you playing Lao Tzu just now? Ashura was out of breath. But Kizaru slips too fast, and few people in the world can match the speed of the flash fruit. Even Ashura, who has eaten the dragon-level monster cells, can't catch up. How could Ashura know that as an ape's self-cultivation, Kizaru is very dedicated? 206. Marine is defeated. The Kid Alliance is established, and Appu wants to join the beasts. Marine started the Great Retreat. Of course Luo Xing's side would not let Marine escape safely, and the whole army launched a general attack. In the sky, Jin's lightning pterodactyl, and Fuzifu's saber-toothed tiger pursued. On the sea, Ashura, the king of evil, Catherine Demai, and others, driving the ship, laughed wildly and told the cowards of Marine and the world government not to run away. Under the sea, Jinbai, the seaman, harassed Marine's warships with huge currents from time to time. They were chasing the enemy on 3 sides. Marine was in a daze for a while, and several warships were destroyed, and all the thousands of sailors on them were killed. Sengoku fell into a rage and turned into a golden Buddha, a shockwave of terror that shook the crowd. After all, he is a veteran top powerhouse who has fought with Roger, Whitebeard and Golden Lion under Dafa Kamui. He really blocked the offensive of Jhin, Ashura, Jinbai and others. Sengoku roared while unleashing the great Buddha's skill at all costs. "You retreat first. The old man comes to stop later." Steel 310 Yukong also joined the post-broken team. Aokiji used the Ice Age to freeze the sea, blocking the ships of the beasts and the Jinbai on the bottom of the sea. The 3 top powerhouses made all-out efforts, finally buying time for the marine warship's evacuation. The war continued for several hours before it finally ended. Kong and Sengoku returned to Marineford with the defeated soldiers. There were a total of dozens of warships when they went, and now there are less than 10 ships left. There were a total of 50,000 troops when they went, but now there are only 20,000 people who have returned intact, and the casualty ratio has reached half. In terms of high-end combat power, Dolphin was killed in battle, Momousagi was captured, the CP0 boss was seriously injured, and the rest of the CPO members were wiped out. As for the other dead Naval Headquarters Vice Admiral, Rear Admiral, there are countless. No doubt, this Saibadi Archipelago battle, Marine and World Government is a complete defeat. The loss is huge. All the returning people, except Kizaru, who yawned and went home to sleep, had a look of grief on their faces. Admiral Aokiji sighed. He wanted to use this battle to make great achievements, so that he could compete with Akainu for the position of marshal. However, the enemy is really strong, and even if he exerted all his strength, he still did not achieve much. Sengoku cheered up and said to Aokiji, Aokiji, you stay here to rest the army, treat the wounded, and go to Marie Joy's. Finished, he went to the Holy Land Marie Joy's with Kong and the boss of CP0. They were going to meet the 5 elders. The CPO boss had a gloomy face. This defeat, to meet his unknown punishment. Kong and Sengoku also looked heavy, but they were more worried about the future of the world than the punishment of the 5 elders. Beasts pirates are getting more arrogant and aggressive. Marine and world government have been defeated again and again, and their majesty has been greatly mourned. The whole world, I'm afraid it will soon become a mess. The two were as expected. With the big newsman Morgans, the Saibadi archipelago battle situation was sent to all parts of the world for the first time. At the same time that countless people were shocked and horrified, many careerists could not contain their inner fanaticism. New World. A deserted island. Captain Kidd, Haming Apu, Scarecrow Hawkins, the captains of the 3 extremely evil supernovae, are gathering here. There was a newspaper on the table in front of the 3 of them. Kidd smiled ambitiously. Marine and the world government are getting worse and worse. They no longer have the ability to control the world. These chaotic times are our chance to make a name for ourselves. A strange light flashed in Haming Apu's eyes, saying, Kidd, do you have any plans? Kidd said without hesitation, I'm going to pull the 4 emperors' red hair down. You too, would you like to join forces with I? In the original, Kidd went to challenge the redhead first, and his arm was cut off by the redhead, and then he went to the Apu and Hawkins alliance. But this plane, in the Saibadi archipelago, he saw the horror of the 5 emperors Luo Xing and Pluton Rayleigh in advance. He understands that there is still a big gap between him and the 4 emperors level powerhouse. Therefore, this time he did not act rashly, but planned to find a few allies and act together. Hawkins took the tarot cards and calculated, right now our odds against red hair pirates, less than 1 in 10, are too low. Kidd said, of course not now, we have to practice for a while. First choose Master Haki. In New World, without Haki, it would be impossible. Any famous big pirate can kill them. Hawkins wrote, when you get stronger, the odds of winning will improve. I also heard that the Redhead's co-captain was killed by Kaido and Big Mom. We will have a higher chance of success. Apparently, Hawkins agreed to join the alliance against the Redheads. Kidd then looked at Apu. How about you, Apu? Apu grinned and giggled. Of course, I have no objection. Kid Darksea, an extremely evil alliance of 3 supernovas, was born. But Kidd and Hawkins won't know, although Apu didn't look strange on the surface. He had already made other plans in his heart. Apu wants to take refuge in Beasts Pirates, Kidd and Hawkins, which is his vote to join the Beasts. The sea at the entrance to the New World. 3 pirate ships met here. Look at the signs of the pirate ship. They are the strange Monkey Rouge, the big stomach girl Jewelry Bonney, and the gangster Capone Big, who was smoking a cigar, was the first to speak. The era has entered a chaotic climax that no one can stop, and only the truly strong can stand in it. 35. You two, what are your plans? Monkey Rouge said. I'm going to challenge Aunt 4 Emperors. 35. Big's eyes flashed. He is also going to start with his Aunt Charlotte Linlin first. After all, he heard that the madwoman is not very intelligent, and the success rate of pulling off the horse should be higher than that of the other 4 emperors. But the thoughtful Big didn't tell Rouge that. Let Rouge try the depth of the Big Mom group first, which is not bad. Big stomach girl Bonney said, you don't care about my mother's business. After saying that, he turned the bow and left. This woman does not seem to want to enter the New World. She wandered around the entrance of the New World for a long time. Jewelry Bonney's identity is very special, and it seems that he has something to do with celestial dragons. She was hesitating. Unfortunately, 5.4 happened. She ran into the Blackbeard pirates who had escaped from Marineford. Blackbeard was unlucky enough. In the summit war he initiated, not only did he gain nothing, he didn't even have a sailing ship, so that he is still riding a small broken sailboat. When I saw it in the newspaper, 5 Emperor Luo Xing destroyed, impelled down and conquered a large number of powerful men, occupy the Saibadi land and defeat the Marine and World Government coalition forces. At such news, Blackbeard was even more furious, roaring, damn it, it's all because of this bastard that Lao Tzu's plan failed. 5. Looking at the angry Blackbeard, Badgers and others were also discouraged. Suddenly, they found Bonney's pirate ship. Badgers said excitedly, Captain, look, there's a boat there, and there's a beauty on it. Ha ha ha, I'm going to catch her and give it to you, Captain. 207. Violent Pepper Bonney, Drake, who came to Luo Xing. A boat? A beauty? Blackbeard's eyes suddenly gleamed with greed. He was feeling depressed and wanted to vent. Looking in the direction Baggers pointed, he saw a burgundy-haired beauty with a bumpy figure and red heart-shaped lips. Thief, ha ha ha, that little beauty I know must be some kind of wicked generation. Big stomach girl Jewelry Bonney, I'm barely qualified to be a woman of Lao Tzu. Blackbeard opened his mouth with missing teeth and moved closer to Jewelry Bonney's pirate ship. Bonney noticed, his heart skipped a beat, and he yelled angrily, Blackbeard, It turns out it's you, the dark and ugly guy. What are you doing near the old lady? Get out of the old lady, thief, ha ha ha. Blackbeard's laugh grew greedier and wilder. Little beauty, you are really a violent little pepper. But it doesn't matter, I like this flavor. 99. Jewelry. Bonney jumped and cursed. You pervert, disgusting stinky man. But the more she cursed, the more excited Blackbeard got. Jewelry. Bonney ordered his men to fire, but still couldn't stop the Blackbeard pirates from getting on board. Without a moment's effort, the rest of the Bonney pirates were killed by badgers and others. 18. Jewelry. Bonney himself was subdued by Blackbeard, tied behind a post. Blackbeard licked his tongue, and that greedy look made Jewelry. Bonney feel a chill. Is this ugly and vulgar guy trying to plot against her in vain? Really, Toad wants to eat swan meat. Jewelry. Bonney continued to curse, calling Blackbeard a piece of shit. Blackbeard wasn't angry at all. He couldn't hold back his excitement. Pity. During the battle just now, this pirate ship was punched out a big hole, seawater penetrated in, and it would soon sink. There is no separate room for Blackbeard to cast. Even though Blackbeard's skin was thicker than the city wall, he couldn't do anything to Jewelry. Bonney in broad daylight and under the gaze of his companions. He could only endure desire in his heart for a while, and let badgers quickly set off the boat and found a small island. Landed with Bonney, still tied up with Bonney. Navigator Lafayette Road. Captain, the key now is to find a ship. Without a ship, we can't go anywhere. Blackbeard looked at Jewelry. Bonney, who was still swearing. As a woman supernova, he should be able to exchange a warship from Marine. But Blackbeard really took a fancy to this violent and arrogant beauty, and felt a little reluctant in his heart. But for great cause, for ambition, Blackbeard can give up anything. He quickly made up his mind and said, send a message to Marine, say Jewelry. Bonney, the big stomach girl, is in Lao Tzu's hands, and ask them to exchange a warship. No need for Blackbeard to spread the word. Marine Marshal Sengoku already knew that Bonney had been captured. Sengoku, who was on his way to the Holy Land Marie Joyce, received a call from Drake. In the microphone, Drake's voice said, I saw Jewelry. Bonney being captured by Blackbeard, on an island at the entrance to the New World. Sengoku and Kong next to him were surprised. Bonney's identity is extraordinary. They were all taken aback when they learned that Bonney had escaped from Marie Joyce. Bonney must be saved. Sengoku thought for a while, then said into the microphone, Bonney's side, the old man will ask Aokiji to rescue Drake. Your future mission is to sneak into the Beast's pirates at all costs. In the original book, Bonney was saved by Ainu, but at this time Ainu was still receiving treatment, and Sengoku's selfishness obviously wanted Aokiji to make this contribution. Drake. Kaido, my subordinates understand, Master Marshal. Hang up the phone. Sengoku immediately called Aokiji to let him know. After all the instructions, Sengoku sighed suddenly. The old man will step down from the position of Marshal Marine, facing the increasingly aggressive situation of the Beast's pirates. The only hope that may reverse the trend is on Drake. Drake is a dragon fruit, ancient species, and a Losaurus form ability, which is very suitable for the style of the 100 Beasts. As long as he shows his willingness to join the Beasts, Kaido of the Beasts will gladly accept it. Once Drake infiltrated the 100 Beasts, it would greatly improve Marine's current disadvantage. On the one hand, if Drake can communicate the next move of the 100 Beasts in time, Marine and the world government can prepare in advance. On the other hand, Drake might be able to steal Luo Xing's heaven-defying inventions, such as fairy beans, fitting earrings, and random doors that make Sengoku and others play tricks. It would be a huge surprise to be able to steal these heaven-defying inventions. Both Sengoku and Kong couldn't help but hold such expectations. Unfortunately, however, their expectations were doomed to fail because they believed that their identities had no flaws. Drake, who the 100 Beasts would gladly accept, was about to fall to the ground. After Drake called Sengoku, he glanced at the island where Blackbeard and Bonney were. After making sure they couldn't leave for a short time, he quietly returned to the first half of the Grand Line. The direction that Drake is heading is actually the Saibadi archipelago who just ended the war. Drake shoulders the heavy responsibility of undercover beasts. Rather than go to Kaido of the Beasts, who is thousands of miles away, it is better to go directly to the closer young master of the Beasts, the 5th Emperor Luo Xing. Luo Xing has conquered so many criminals in Impel Down, so he must be a very ambitious and talented person. Drake was confident that with his strength and fruit ability, Luo Xing would be happy to subdue him. And as long as you gain that man's trust, in the future, whether it is to inquire about the movements of the 100 Beasts, or to steal those heaven-defying inventions, you will get twice the result with half the effort. With this thought in mind, Drake calmly came to the Saibadi archipelago. At this time, the Saibadi land has been completely built as a war base by the 100 Beasts. Defense is very strict. In addition to the alert on the island, there is a 3-masted terrifying ship comparable to the size of the island in the Right Sea area, which is Horns with Saibadi. The vicious criminal legion, coupled with the undead zombie legion, is such a defense that it is impregnable. Even if Marine and the world government once again assemble a large army to attack, the 100 Beasts can deal with it calmly. Seeing this formidable and terrifying defense, Drake couldn't help being secretly frightened and secretly nervous. As soon as he arrived on the island, he was discovered by a criminal legionnaire. The criminal pointed a gun at him and shouted, "Who are you?" Drake immediately raised his hands, showing no malice, and said, "I'm X-Drake, and I'm here to take refuge with the 5 emperors, Lord Luo Crossing." X-Drake? The criminal seemed to have heard Drake's name, with a sneer on his face. "It turns out that you are the so-called extremely evil supernova. Hee. You are very sensible and know to surrender." "Forget it, you wait here. I will report to Lord Luo Crossing." The criminal hurried to Luo Xing's residence. Just now facing Drake's sneer, it turned into ultimate humility and obedience. The criminal soldier knelt directly on the ground and said, "Lord Luo Xing, a supernova named X-Drake, just came to the island and said he wanted to join us." 35. Luo Xing, who was sitting at the top, raised his eyebrows slightly. Immediately, the corners of his mouth evoked a smile that was not a smile. Glancing at Ashura of the rain next to him, he said lightly, "Any cat or dog is eligible to be my subordinate. Ashura, go and get that guy's head." 208. Drake, who was killed in confusion, the magical effect of Bonney's fruit ability. Ashura got the order and didn't ask Luo Xing why he wanted to kill Drake. A bloodthirsty Kaido flashed in his eyes. "Sir, please wait here for a while, and then go back when the subordinates go." Ashura soon came to the shores of the Saibadi archipelago. Seeing that Ashura came out to greet him, not Wu Huang Luo Xing himself, Drake felt a little dissatisfied. He originally thought that the 5th Emperor Luo Xing would come out in person. After all, he was the first supernova to approach the 100 beasts. And he is also a dragon fruit, an ancient species of ability, so the beasts group should attach great importance to him. Drake didn't show these emotions on his face. Instead, he squeezed out a smile, looked at Ashura and said, "Chief Warden Ashura, I met you once when I was in Marine." 35. I didn't expect that after so many years, we would be in the same camp again. 35. Ashura drank a cigar and smiled coldly. "Same faction?" "Drake, you think too highly of yourself. Do you think that the subordinates of Lord 5 Emperors can be any cat or dog?" Drake's face changed slightly. He never expected, not only did Wu Huang Luo Xing not show a warm welcome to him, but Ashura, who was sent out, actually looked down on him. How arrogant. Drake's heart surged with anger. He'd never been so slighted before. Fortunately, as an undercover marine, his patience is still very strong. Drake's smile didn't change. "Chief Warden Ashura, I know that joining the Beasts Pirates generally requires a nomination. I have news about Blackbeard here. I wonder if Lord 5 Emperors is interested." 55. Ashura, who was about to slash Drake with his knife, paused. "Oh? You know where that BLCKMN is?" Drake told Ashura that the Blackbeard pirates were on an island at the entrance of New World. Drake knew that the 100 Beasts and the Black Squad must be very incompatible. Otherwise, during the Summit War, Gecko Moria, the subordinate of the 5 Emperor Luo Xing, will not spoil Blackbeard's good deeds. Drake informed the 100 Beasts about the Black Group. In the first place, it can indeed be regarded as a certificate of vote to win the trust of the other party. Secondly, I hope to see the 100 Beasts and the Black Dog Spider Dog. They are all pirates who don't want to die anyway. As long as the Beast Group and the Black Group fight, no matter which side wins, it will be beneficial to Marine in the world government. Although Ashura didn't know Drake's good plan, it didn't prevent him from slashing people next. Ashura took out the famous sword Thunderstorm and smiled cruelly. "Thank you for this information. It may be useful to Lord 5 Emperors. In order to repay you, take your head as a gift." As soon as the words fell, Ashura swung the knife sharply, slashing Drake's neck. Drake, who didn't expect this situation at all, turned pale with shock and was incomparably horrified. Why did Ashura suddenly kill him? No, why did the 5 Emperor Luo Xing send Ashura to kill him without even seeing him? Has his undercover identity been exposed? Impossible. His identity is inside Marine, and only a few high-level officials such as Sengoku know. It is impossible for outsiders to know. Drake was full of confusion, but he had no time to think about it. The threat of death was right in front of him. Drake's skin showed a deep red color, and his whole body's chi and blood were mobilized in an instant. Finally, at the moment when Ashura's knife was about to slash to his neck, he avoided it dangerously. Drake rolled out, gasping for breath, and said in horror, Why do you want to kill me?" Ashura stepped forward with the knife and shrugged indifferently. "Murder. Do you need a reason?" Another vertical strike. Drake's face was extremely ugly. Hastily pulled out a knife to resist. However, his sword was cut off by Ashura's sword. Drake was immediately pale. The strength of Ashura of the Rain is actually many times stronger than when he met him back then. This is only natural. After all, Ashura eats dragon-level monster cells. With the increase of dragon-level monster cells, Ashura, who was originally a deputy emperor, can already be on par with the 4 emperors admiral. How could a rear admiral-level Drake be Ashura's opponent? Ashura swung the knife continuously, and the Drake hit was miserable. In a short while, the body was covered with several deep scars. Confused, panicked, fearful, and angry, Drake finally tried his best. He turned into a huge dinosaur, showing his teeth and claws, and his imposing manner was extraordinary. It is the Allosaurus from ancient times. A bloodthirsty gleam of excitement flashed in Shura's eyes. Finally willing to transform, I can wait for you for a while. With Shura's strength, he could actually kill Drake in seconds. But he deliberately tortured each other, just to make Drake turn into a dinosaur, and then cut it again. Shura of the Rain is a downright murderous maniac whose greatest hobby is to slaughter his enemies. Drake, who turned into an Allosaurus, was even more miserable. On his huge dinosaur body, I don't know how many knives Shura slashed. Blood splattered and scarred. Shura gets more and more excited as he chops. This tortured pleasure is really cool. But he couldn't play for too long, otherwise it would be bad for Lord Luo Xing to wait too long. Shura immediately got serious and slapped Drake's head with a sword. The elite undercover ex-Drake, who had high hopes for Sengoku and Kong to infiltrate the 100 Beasts and restore Marine's decline, was killed just like that. I didn't even see Luo Xing's face. Shura carried Drake's head back to the main hall. Luo Xing just glanced at him lightly. With his current status and strength, a little Drake is not qualified to give him much attention. Shura then informed Luo Xing about Blackbeard from Drake's mouth. Luo Xing let out a small murmur, and his eyes moved. Is Blackbeard on a deserted island at the entrance to the good new world right now? If his memory is correct, Blackbeard should have captured Jewelry Bonney, and wanted to trade Marine for a warship. Compared to Blackbeard, who didn't get the shock fruit ability and was not a big threat, Luo Xing is more interested in Jewelry Bonney. This woman's fruit ability is very strange. It can increase or shrink a person's age. It should be regarded as the upper fruit of Ain's fruit of regression. Luo Xing couldn't help but imagine, wouldn't it be wonderful if Bonney could change his women from little girls to girls, then to royal sisters, and then to be older and more mature, so that they could switch between different age groups? Apart from this, Luo Xing is also curious about Jewelry Bonney's true identity. He decided to go to the deserted island. There's no need to go slowly by the warship. Drake has a record pointer close to the island in his hand. Just enter the location information into any door. Luo Xing will be able to arrive at the child in an instant. 209. The mocked Blackbeard, Aokiji's plan, Luo Xing's excitement. The island at the entrance to the new world. Blackbeard greedily looked at Jewelry Bonney, who had a good figure and smooth skin, and said with a smirk, "Hey, little girl, have you made up your mind? Be a woman of Lao Tzu. The world in the future will be the era of Lao Tzu." Jewelry Bonney spit, and was about to scold when he suddenly thought of something and turned to sarcasm. "Your era? Ha ha ha, mother of Kerr. Black ball bastard, as far as I know, all your plans have failed." Meet Wu Huang. Luo Xing had impelled down and run away in despair. In Marineford's attempt to steal Whitebeard's body, he was also blocked by Luo Xing's subordinates. The plan you have worked so hard to make for decades is like a joke in the eyes of that man. You're worse than that man's hair. How dare you say that the future era is yours? Blackbeard's face suddenly became extremely gloomy and ugly. Jewelry Bonney is putting salt in his wound. If it wasn't for Luo Xing, how could his current subordinates only have 4 people? If it weren't for Luo Xing, he would have been Master Dark in one hand and Earthquake in the other hand, and he would be invincible in the world. Damn it! When Blackbeard thought of this, he went mad with grief and wanted to kill someone to vent. When he looked at Jewelry Bonney again, it was already true that he had murderous intent. 310. But Blackbeard finally held back. He wants to trade this woman with Marine for a warship. Blackbeard exclaimed angrily, "What, do you want to be the woman of the 5th Emperor Luo Xing?" Jewelry Bonney sneers, "Being that man's woman is a million times better than being your ugly, disgusting, failed black ball bastard." "What did you say, you stinky woman?" Blackbeard gritted his teeth. Just as he was about to slap Jewelry Bonney hard, Navigator Lafayette stopped him and said, "Captain, Marine has already sent someone over, we still need to exchange for warships." Blackbeard suppressed his anger and asked, "Who was the Marine sent?" 39. Lafayette looked at the sea level and said solemnly, "The man is about to arrive, it's Admiral Aokiji." 99. Blackbeard followed Lafayette's gaze. Sure enough, I saw Marine Admiral Aokiji standing proudly on the deck of the warship. Blackbeard's face was even more ugly. Marine sent Admiral with the highest combat power over, obviously not really wanting to give him a warship. Damn. He doesn't have time to fight Admiral right now. Blackbeard looked gloomy. Want to leave Jewelry Bonney and run away, but not reconciled. After all, he has been eating too much recently, and he really doesn't want to continue to endure humiliation on a warship at sea level. Aokiji also saw the Blackbeard pirates on the island, and his main target this time, Jewelry Bonney. This is a credit given to him by Marshal Sengoku. As long as Jewelry Bonney can be successfully rescued, the objections of the 5 elders to his superior Marine will be reduced. After Aokiji made sure that Jewelry Bonney was not hurt, he looked at Blackbeard deeply. This guy who ate Lodia's most vicious dark fruit is not a small person to be despised. If there is no Yuang Luo Xing to spoil the situation, the biggest beneficiary of this summit war is likely to be the Blackbeard in front of you. And even if Blackbeard's plans all fail, With its ambition to endure for decades and the mysterious ability of dark fruit, it will inevitably grow into a force that cannot be ignored in the future. See. Aokiji's eyes flickered, and no one but himself knew what he was thinking. Aokiji's position, Aokiji's justice, was not actually firmly on Marine's side. As early as in the Ashura incident, Aokiji saw through the hypocrisy of the world government, and he did not regard Marine as his only shelter and the reason why he had to fight for the position of marshal this time. On the one hand, it is to strongly oppose Akainu. Akainu had bombarded Ashura's civilian ships, and such extreme absolute justice, in Aokiji's view, was harmful to the world. He can't allow the extreme Akainu to take the position of Marshal Marine. On the other hand, Aokiji is also trying to enforce his own justice. As long as he becomes a marshal, he can transform Marine into his ideal shape according to his own ideas. But if it fails this time, Akainu becomes the marshal. Aokiji was about to leave Marine, traveling alone on this sea, looking for justice that belongs to him. Just as Aokiji was thinking, while Blackbeard was hesitating to run away immediately, a door suddenly emerged from the air not far away. Aokiji's pupils contracted immediately. His messy thoughts flew away, and his muscles tightened. This is any door? Marine already knew some information about the random door, but Blackbeard didn't know it yet. Blackbeard stared at the door that suddenly appeared. The door opens. Several figures emerged from it. The current tall and handsome man is not Luo Xing. But who is it? Blackbeard's eyes were about to fall. What? How come it's you again, arsehole? Blackbeard caught a glimpse of Ashura of the Rain behind Luo Xing, the king of evil, Catherine Demai, Big Wine Barrel, and others, and had the urge to cry without tears. These people are all the subordinates he intends to subdue, and they have all been cut off. Luo Xing's sudden appearance surprised Jewelry Bonney. In Jewelry Bonney's eyes, there is also a strange color, because she only talked about Luo Xing not long ago, devaluing Blackbeard as worthless, and saying that she would rather be Luo Xing's woman Barabella. Unexpectedly, this man really appeared. Luo Xing's appearance made Blackbeard completely determined to escape. An Admiral Aokiji, Blackbeard's current strength is tough to deal with. Another even more terrifying 5 Emperor Luo Xing. Is he courting death if he doesn't run? Buzzing. A black whirlwind covered the entire island, and Blackbeard took advantage of the dark fruit's ability and planned to run away immediately with his men. Luo Xing glanced at it. Without his orders, Ashura of the Rain and the King of Evil government took their knives in their hands and smirked and killed the Blackbeard pirates. Luo Xing stepped a little, came to Jewelry Bonney, and untied the rope tied to the other side's delicate body. When it was just unwrapped, Luo Xing paid special attention. The rope tied to Jewelry Bonney's body actually has a different kind of beauty. It was something Luo Xing had never seen on other women before. If the rope is replaced by a pearl necklace or the like, it will probably be more beautiful. Luo Xing was a little excited. He had never played like this before. But Jewelry Bonney's binding gave him inspiration. After releasing the restraint, Jewelry Bonney immediately wanted to escape, but unfortunately Luo Xing grabbed his wrist and put on a pair of sea-stone handcuffs. Luo Xing smiled and said, "Why do you leave in such a hurry?" The knight saves the princess, and the princess has to pay a certain amount. 210. The possibility of Aokiji joining the 100 Beasts and going to Germa again. Jewelry Bonney was stunned and said with a red heart, You want my old lady too? Nian. Luo Xing coughed and said seriously, "Don't be so rude, just a little curious about you and your abilities." "Can you tell me, what is your real identity?" The true identity of Jewelry Bonney must be unusual to be able to alert the marine executives and send an admiral to rescue him. Jewelry Bonney immediately closed his mouth and stared at Luo Xing angrily. Just out of the wolf's den, and into the tiger's mouth again. It's really unfortunate. But looking at the handsome face of the man in front of him, it was 1,000 times better than that ugly black bull bastard. If such a man really wanted her, Bonney didn't really mind. Although she had never talked about men, her careless and violent nature made her not care about that kind of thing at all. Also, she likes handsome guys very much. Even if it is true, I still don't know who is whitewashing who. But Bonney was shocked when Luo Xing asked her real identity. Her identity, except Marine, should be known to no one. Where did this man get the news? Seeing that Jewelry Bonney didn't answer, Luo Xing wasn't angry either. In the future, he has time to slowly let the violent little pepper, Jewelry Bonney, obey him. The other side. Ashura, Katrin Sharma and other 5 people have already fought against the Blackbeard pirates. Blackbeard just wanted to run away and didn't really want to fight Ashura and the others. But escaping is not so easy. Ashura at dragon level monster cells, and the other 4 also at ghost level monster cells. The overall strength is far above the black group. Ashura slashed vertically, sending out a huge sword wave, smashing Blackbeard's small sailboat. All members of the black group fell into the sea. Just as a wave came, they were swept into the bottom of the sea again. Blackbeard is a demon fruit power, and as soon as he falls into the sea, he immediately rolls his eyes. After a while, he fainted to death. All the members of the tragic black group do not know whether they are alive or dead. Aokiji has seen the strength of Luo Xing's subordinates in the Saibadi archipelago battle. It's no surprise that they can knock down the Blackbeard pirates. It's just that Jewelry Bonney, who has a special status, fell into the hands of Luo Xing. How can he be rescued? Aokiji wasn't sure. He raised his hand and stopped the warship, still a few hundred meters away from the island where Luo Xing was. He stared at Luo Xing's every move with fear and solemnity. Marine and the Beast group are now in an incompatible situation. After the other party has dealt with Blackbeard, it is a matter of course to attack him. Aokiji had to defend. But Luo Xing doesn't seem to want to take action against Aokiji. While pulling the restrained Jewelry Bonney, he moved in the direction of Aokiji and said lightly, "I heard that your Marine's Marshal, Sengoku, is going to take the blame and resign. The next one should be one of you and Ake Ainu. Those who are immortal from the five elders must be more fond of Ake Ainu." Aokiji was tense and stared deeply at Luo Xing, not knowing what he meant by what he said. Next, Luo Xing's words shocked him greatly. "You will not be Ake Ainu's opponent in this battle for the position of Marshal Kuzin. With your character, you will leave Marine, and then consider joining my camp." The so-called justice always needs to constantly change positions and observe the world from a different perspective in order to truly find the final answer. Done. Luo Xing took Jewelry Bonney, Ashura and others and left here through any door. Aokiji stared blankly at the deserted island. Luo Xing's words when he left set off a huge wave in his heart. Will he lose to Ake Ainu in this battle for the marshal position? How could that man be so sure? And also, that man actually invited him to join the camp of the 100 Beasts. This is a path Aokiji has never thought of before. After all, not long ago, he had an earth-shattering fight with the 100 Beasts. But if you think about it carefully, it is not impossible to join the 100 Beasts, because Aokiji will 100% leave Marine if he really fails to become Marshal of Marine, and he doesn't want to work under Ake Ainu. This is what Aokiji had planned for a long time. After leaving Marine, he either sailed around the sea alone, or some other great power. In this sea, there are only a handful of forces that dare to take in him, the former Marine Admiral. Ask for flowers. Only the 4 emperors and the Revolutionary Army. The 4 emperors have now eliminated Whitebeard, leaving only the 100 Beasts, the Big Mom and the Redheads. Aokiji doesn't want to join the Revolutionary Army. That kind of secretly carrying out the national revolution is not in line with Aokiji's style. The Big Mom group, Aokiji will definitely not choose, because Aunt 4 Emperors is a pure brainless mad woman, with no justice and no future. Not to mention the Redheads. Aokiji vaguely knows that the Redhead's identity is as special as Jewelry Bonney, and even his involvement with the 5 elders. After leaving Marine, Aokiji will definitely not want to have anything to do with the world government. Think of it this way, the only place for Aokiji seems to be the 100 Beasts. Point 0. Certainly, if the Blackbeard pirates can replace Whitebeard as the new 4 emperors, it is also a place to go. But Blackbeard doesn't know his life or death right now, and Aokiji doesn't look down on Blackbeard's power. All kinds of thoughts were churning in his mind, making Aokiji's mood a bit complicated. He ordered the ship to turn around and return to Marineford. En route, he thought again of Nico Robin, the Devil's Son, the woman he had let go of in Ashura. I heard before that this woman joined Crocodile's Brook Work Club. Later, Crocodile was killed by the 5 emperors Luo crossing. This woman must have fallen into the hands of that man. Aokiji let Robin go back then because he wanted to see the blank 100-year history and what kind of truth the world government was hiding. Now, Nico Robin is probably also in Luo Xing's hands, giving Aokiji another reason to join the 100 Beasts. Aokiji sighed slightly. No matter what happens in the future, let's fight for the position of Marshal with all our strength now. It is of course the best to be able to become Marshal Marine and realize his ideals. Saibadi Archipelago. After Luo Xing returned, he detained Jewelry Bonney in a room and sent someone to guard him. He also instructed Ashura and the others to guard the land of Saibadi, while he passed through any gate and went to the kingdom of Germa in North Blue. The Summit War and the Saibadi battle are the prelude to the Great War. The smoke of gunpowder that fills the world will not stop, but will become more and more intense. Luo Xing intends to take over the entire North Blue through Germa's clone trooper army first. If you like this audiobook, subscribe the channel for more videos like this and join my Patreon if you want to support me. Leave some comment and let me know if you guys like this story, or you have a web novel you like and want to hear its audiobook. I will be happy to create them for you. Please like, share, and leave a comment on the video.